Hello. It's time for me to make this little video because some of you, some small percentage, have been receiving uh, instructions for your missions. Missions which some start now, some already started, others will start next year, the year before, 2020. And some people are sending us messages about their missions, and I see that there's still some confusion about what the missions are all about, how it works. And this is a very complex issue. It's not as simple as you think. I've been preparing this issue of the missions, explaining little by little, here and there, trying to explain to you how the missions work, what they're for, what's the purpose. I've been explaining that for a long time on videos, here, posts, and there's still people that don't understand what the missions are all about. It's not necessarily to do something heroic. It's not to kill someone, it's not to blow up a building, it's not to save a country. It can be, but it's not for you to do it directly. It's not for you to go and save a society. These things are done little by little, not by one person alone, not by one mission alone. These are things that the Christians cannot do, and I'll explain why we cannot do. We cannot be everywhere. We're all connected. Everyone in the world is connected. It's like a big spider web around the planet. And all the threads of the spider web are connected, and so are we. All of us. Every single person on the planet, or not person, other kind. They're still connected. We're all connected one way or another. I'm going to give you an example again. I already gave one or two or three a while ago, one video, how everything is connected, how one thing, a little detail, action, event, little event, apparently insignificant on one side of the world can affect something on the other side of the world in hours. And there are people, maybe I'm making this video to refresh the memory of some. Let me give you an example. You're a woman, you know, whatever, 30 years old or 40, it's not important. White woman living in Idaho, and you have a 5-year-old son or 6-year-old son. And no, you get a message from the school, like we all do, saying that there's the flu virus going around, to keep your son at home. Because there's other kids in school that already got sick with the flu, and some teachers too. So if your son has the symptoms, don't bring him to the school, not to affect the other kids that don't have the flu yet. You know, those things. If you have kids, kids in school, you probably already got one of those messages from the school. There's a virus going around, don't bring your son to school, blah blah blah. I have. Everybody has, or heard of. Anyway, but you know, so you get one of those email messages or a phone call from the school saying, oh, there's a flu virus going around, don't bring your son to school if he has the symptoms, so that it doesn't spread even more. But you know, you have to go to work. You have to work somewhere, and you can stay home, and you don't have anyone to take care of the kid for some reason. And you say, well, he has the symptoms a little bit, but I have to go to work, so okay, son, you're going to school. So you get him ready and you drive to school. On your way there, on your way to school, you decide to stop at 7-Eleven, a convenience store, and to grab some coffee. So you get your coffee, and you're in line to pay for your coffee. And your son, and there's a father with his son in line to pay for his potato chips, whatever. And that father has a kid too, a little kid, 5, 6, 7 years old. And they happen to be Chinese. For example, choose any nation, or American too, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'll give you an example, this example, so that you see how complex this is. And there's this Chinese father with his son, and your son and this son start playing around, kids fooling around, running around. The Chinese kid, he doesn't have the flu, but your son, because he's sick, just passed the flu virus to the other kid. Because your son already has it, the other one didn't. Okay, but everything is normal. So now the Chinese kid has the flu virus too. Your son gave it to him. Anyway, you pay, you go, and you drive away, you go to work, and you drop your son at school. End of story for you, apparently. The Chinese father and his son, they leave, they were heading to the airport from Idaho, they go to wherever, San Francisco, international flight, go to China, and they catch a train, and then a bus, and they finally get to the village that they go to, because he was going to visit his parents, for example, in a small village, population 50 or 20. By the time they get there, the next day, his son, because he got the virus from your son, his son's getting sick because he got the flu now. And that little village in the middle of nowhere in China that they went there to visit, the man went there to visit his parents. There's no doctor, small village in the middle, rural area in China, there's many. And so the son gets so sick because there's the flu. It's like, there's no doctor or pharmacy. I have to drive 20 kilometers to go to the nearest town, take him to the hospital for them to get something for him. So they get in the car and they start driving. On the way to the town, which was just 20 kilometers away, a drunk driver hits them and they have an accident. And the son dies on the accident, because of that accident. Why did the son die? For the father, it will always be because of a drunk driver. You'll always blame the drunk driver, but in fact, it all happened when you decided to take your kid to school 24 hours before, or 48 or 36. And you decide to stop for coffee at the 7-Eleven, and your son gave the flu virus to that child. That connection will never be made by anyone. Forever, for the father, for the family, for the police, the drunk driver killed that kid. True. If he hadn't been drunk, probably would have killed the kid. But the father wouldn't be on the road driving to that town if the son wasn't sick. And who gave him the flu? Your son. And why? Because you decided to take him to school instead of keeping home, because you couldn't. You had to go to work. See? A connection that nobody will make ever. This is how it works. Now, why am I telling this story? Well, maybe because I know that father, the Chinese father, actually some political ambitions, and very important political ambition. He was going to become someone important in the political world, important to the cause. And now, because his son died, he lost his motivation to become a politician. He loved his son. He's not interested in politics anymore. With his son, he was following the steps to have a political career or other career, might be in architecture, whatever. Doesn't matter. Just giving a random example, but he had political ambitions, and that man was important to the cause in the future. Now, because his son died, he lost interest, motivation. He doesn't care about politics anymore. And so the cause loses an important figure, future figure, which was going to happen 10 years later. It'll be important to the cause 10 years later, when they finally achieve that political importance. Well, now that's lost. Why? Because that lady took the son to school. See how this works? How complex? This is overwhelming to understand. And then, you know, there's all the ramifications, and this crosses with that, and that crosses with that, different levels. This is overwhelming. It's so complex and overwhelming, you don't even want to think about it or your head explodes. But it exists. It's very simple, I hope, to understand that this is how it happens. We're all connected, one way or another, at a certain degree. All of us. A kid right now might be throwing a rock in some island, small island in Japan or in Greece, and hit someone in the head by accident that's swimming, and that might affect my life in 7 days or 7 years. My life. Just because a kid is throwing rocks in the ocean, you know, having fun, and the mother said don't do it, but he kept on doing, and he hit someone in the head. Then the man was supposed to he was planning on swimming another 10 minutes, but he comes out of the water instead because he got hit by the head. That might affect my life next week, next year. And this man, maybe it's connected to that Chinese man that lost his son. Maybe he was going to sponsor him or help him with his political career. You never know. This is how it works. It's very complex. You know, maybe that Chinese man, or no, maybe the man in the water who got hit in Greece or wherever, got hit in the head with a stone from that kid. Maybe that man was also connected to you, to the lady that took the son to school instead of keeping him home. Maybe that man, years before, had been stabbed by a druggie. This guy, a druggie, he wanted money for drugs. At the time, this man was living in America. Maybe he even is American. He was in Greece swimming on holidays. Doesn't matter. He was in America, that man, and one day he was going home at night after having some drinks in the bar, and he got stabbed. Some druggie stabbed him for money for drugs. Now, why did this guy become a drug addict? Let's say that years before, he invited this girl for prom night, you know, the end of high school, prom night, and the girl rejected him, said, no, I don't like you, you're gross, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, instead of going to prom with you, with a woman, or you know, instead of going to prom, you went to a bar and met some guys there and decided to drink and this, and ended up doing drugs, and he got addicted to drugs. If you had accepted, by you I mean the lady that took the son to school, because that was the lady he invited for prom. So this works. And if the lady that, you know, that they took the son to school years before had accepted that guy, taken, you know, to go with him to prom night, he had never become a drug addict. He had gone with the lady to prom, and maybe it'll work out, maybe not, that we don't know. But because he was rejected, he went to the bar and ended up hanging out with the wrong people and become a drug addict. And one day he was desperate and stabbed the man that was swimming in Greece and got hit by a stone. This is how it works. And so here you see like three things. The lady that took the son to school even though he was sick, because he had to. The Chinese man who lost his son in China and blamed the drunk driver forever. And the guy swimming in Greece, which had been years before stabbed by a guy who had been rejected to go to prom by the lady that took the son to school. This happens every day. This is not far-fetched at all. This is not far-fetched at all. If you knew what I knew, and this is not very hard to understand or to know, this is very normal. Happens every day. We're all connected. It's not far-fetched. This is one of the main things about the missions of the 72, to create these events or to stop events, which is creating an event by itself. To stop an event is also to create an event. And this is what the missions of the 72 are about, most of them. To work towards the next group of 72, a lot is to do with that. It's not to do something that is going to change the world right now, but it's to do something that will change the world 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead. And it doesn't have to be a radical change, but to keep things the way we want and not the way the other side wants. They have something similar to groups of 72 also, but it's not to avoid bad things from happening, it's to create them, to destroy what our 72s are doing. But that's another story. Maybe one day I'll make a video about it or something if I have time. Anyway, so this is what I wanted to tell you. So being a 72 is not about being Rambo, or doing something miraculously, incredibly brave, heroic. No, these are heroic things for us. These are heroic things. Things that no one can do except you. We can't do it. We know that these things are going to happen, more or less, because the woman who's driving the kid to school, she might never get to that 7-Eleven and get her coffee either, because she might be hit by a car on the way to school before she gets to 7-Eleven, and her son infects the other kid with the Chinese kid with flu. She might get hit by a car. How about that? So that's another thing. We're all connected. We're all connected. That's another thing. Now, what to avoid? The mother from getting hit by another car before she gets to 7-Eleven, or the Chinese kids from getting the flu. Or maybe she doesn't get hit by a car while she's going to school, but the neighbor waves at her and says, "Hello, how are you?" And just those few seconds that neighbor says, "Hello, how are you?" it will avoid her from being hit by another car and die and leave the son an orphan. Think, just that person waving, slowing her down from driving away, a few seconds, might change everything. Okay, just think about this, because, or don't think at all, but at least try to understand that the missions are very important, but doesn't have to be something heroic. Like David Bowie said, you can be a hero just for one day. You don't have to go down and book history books like Alexander the Great and this and that. No. You can be a hero just for one day. That's what he said. That's what he was talking about. Just for one day. This is exactly what the song is about. Cheers. Love you.